Thanks, Anthony. So the Labor Code Section 2802 requires an employee to reimburse employees for all necessary expenses that the employee incurs in carrying out his or her job duties and functions. The statute specifically allows an employee who is not reimbursed to seek the his attorney's fees. So be very mindful of that. So regardless of it, whether it's an expense related to COVID-19 or not, you do have an obligation to pay those expenses. And with respect to COVID-19, some of the things that we're seeing is expenses related to employees who might have been working at home, including computer equipment, cell phone use, and even those employees not working at that they're not working at home. If you're now requiring employees to use their personal cell phones for calling or texting, that is also reimbursable, as well as mileage reimbursement. Maybe your supplies are low and you have an employee who ask the employee to go out and pick up some supplies. You need to be sure that you reimburse the employee for the mileage and any other tools that the employee needs to carry out the performance of a job to the extent it's not already provided. And again, if the expenses are not paid, the employer could be liable for attorney's fees and court costs. And not only can the individual seek those expenses in court on his own behalf, he could file a representative claim under the Private Attorney General Act for penalties for any underpayment or non-payment of business expenses to other similarly situated employees. Another item that may come into play, if for some reason your supply of PPE is low and the employees have to spend their own funds for that, those are something you need to be sure to reimburse. I've got a slide here with some best practices to avoid any litigation over these. Have a clear policy in writing about reimbursement of expenses, and it's really important to maintain business records. Now, business expenses are not wages under California law and don't have to be identified on the wage statement, but I recommend that it's good to have a line item, some documentation of what was paid and how much and what it was for, and be consistent to set reasonable rates for the particular expense you're reimbursing. Offer a form for reimbursement expenses and a process for disputing those expenses.
Great. Thanks, Ann. And, I think on the business expense issue too, we're seeing a lot of issues about how do we calculate that for like cell phones or home internet. Do we have to pay 100% of the employee's home internet bill because they're working from home? And you don't have to pay 100%. In the court on a cell phone case, the employees are saying, you require us to use the cell phone, and therefore you need to reimburse us for the expense of the cell phone. They had these unlimited data plans, and the employer said, well, you would have had this anyway, so we don't have to reimburse you. And the court said, no, you still have to pay a pro rata share of that, and then failed to explain how to go about that pro rata share calculation. So kind of left it up to employers to figure it out. What we recommend is just approach the employees, and if there's varying amounts, different amounts per employee, to go ahead and do that. And, just approach them and say, what do you think would be fair? And document it, have an agreement with the employee, and make sure you tell the employee if it goes up or down that you'll adjust that as needed. So we do have some flexibility on that front.